It was good. What's good? Robert Williams here. Long time no see, I feel. Haven't made a video in quite a bit, but your boy's been working, so been kind of busy, unfortunately, but not unfortunately, right? Your brain and your mind is set in some other places. Sometimes it just is what it is. So finally was able to inch away some time and some brain power to come and make a little video real quick just to talk about, stuff that we normally do talk about. And it's funny, before hitting the record button, I'm sitting here like, man, what do we talk about? Because I don't want to talk about these markets, right? If you're in plays, hopefully you're just in something that is long term at this point. If not, hopefully you've stopped out, especially if you're in the tech sector. Unless it is a long term play. If you're in some stuff that's short, you're definitely getting kind of killed right now. Is it market manipulation? Is it rotation? Is it just the shaking out retail traders? Is this the stock market and the exchange getting back to saying, all right, big boys only? Let's weed out all these people who felt like they were, great, traders and investors from 2020. I think it could be a combination of all those things. At the end of the day, though, for sure, there is companies with very good earnings that obviously show that they could weather the storm. And we have a backlog in certain areas of supply and inventory. And, the country just needs to get people back to work. And I don't think it's really the country's job to do so. It's people need to get up off their butts and get to work and stop trying to take free money, because our children will pay for this free money that's being handed out. So we have to do our thing to put our children in the right position to where they can, they'll be taxed way more than we're ever being taxed now because of the things that our government is putting in place today. That's a little bit of the political rant on that piece. But again, we need to set our family up. So but I don't want to really talk about the markets. I really want to just go into some things of why I really like ThinkorSwim um, as my brokerage of choice. And I'm gonna pick on like kind of one or two things that I like the most here. So let's go ahead. I'm gonna share my screen and share screen. I'm gonna share my ThinkorSwim window. Boom. So now my ThinkorSwim should be up here. So why do I like ThinkorSwim? Well, I like it because it has a multitude of tools. And I want to show you two of them that I think are really cool. And what I'm going to do is actually change my entire workspace. Please bear with me. I know this is not kind of popping up there for you, but I'm going to change my workspace to that one. Yeah, it's oh, I do share. I didn't mean to share. I'll cancel that. Tuh. Your boy is not paying all the attention that I should be paying to doing. Oh, I should just be able to click on one of these. Okay. So this is completely changing over the workspace of ThinkorSwim. And this is actually one really cool part about ThinkorSwim is you can have numerous different workspaces, as they like to call it, right? And in these different workspaces, you can set up your chart to look however it is that you want to set it up. So let's close that there. Right now it has me in Core Watch, but I want to change this to, I want to change it to some stocks I've never seen before. So we're going to go with Russell's Midcap as we look at some stuff, not 100% in detail, right? But and I'm gonna shrink that. So when you set up a different workspace, this means that this workspace has pretty much only a few things on here, right? That I want to be able to share. And what am I doing here? Oh, that's perfect. All right. So we want to be able to take a look at a few things that we want to be able to share here on the ThinkorSwim platform. And one of the things that I like to share that I saw someone do in the Tradeway educational program and company that I invested in is they were able to make multiple chart windows. And so right now, what we have popped up, this is definitely an old workspace that I created like first getting started and stuff. And I don't know exactly what I have. I think this would be the 10 EMA, the 20 EMA, and the 50 EMA is all I have on here. I have the stochastic and I have RSI. So that's kind of what I set up initially in getting started. But ever since then, it has evolved to different studies. So I don't even think any of my other studies are set on here as well. Let's see if I have any of my other studies. Okay, so the good thing about with your workspace, you may have it set up with particular settings of your layout, but your studies that you have are available across all of the different workspaces that you do have set up. So I can go with what I use most often right now, which would be this 10, 10, 20, 50, 100 EMA, which actually has a 5 EMA on it as well. So um, the one feature that I would like to talk about today, and sorry if I'm moving a little bit slow, I'm kind of like thinking of some things faster than my brain is thinking faster than my mind can, and words can come out of my mouth right now. But it's this feature here, which is really cool. So we're in the chart setting for charts, and we're looking at one main chart. I hope you already know, if you utilize ThinkorSwim, you can have the flexible grid chart feature where you can have as many of these chart windows up as you want, right? And that's really cool because if you want to have things that are on the same time frame, essentially all these are on the same 3-month, 1-day time frame, and you want to look at four different you want to look at four different stocks at the same time, four different ETFs, two ETFs, one stock. You want to look at, say, S&P on this one while you're looking at Apple on this one. And then also you may have, what do we want to say? What do you have over here? You got Tesla, you can have Ford. So you have Ford over here in this one, and you have your, I mean, what do we have over here? We can have, I guess we'll keep it on AMD, which is just getting murdered right now. So we can be looking at all of these different four charts on here at the same time. The other cool thing that you could also do is, let's say you want to look at the same ticker symbol, the same stock, but you just want to look at it at different time on different time frames. So you can do the SPX here, and you can change this, and this is again on Flex Grid, and you can say, okay, let me look at this from a weekly standpoint, right? And I have the 5-year weekly on this one. And then I'm gonna pull up SPX again, and on this one, let's say I want to look at the 5-minute, you know, if I'm going to enter in on a daily chart or something, or day trade, right? And then we'll put this one as SPX, and then on this one, let's increase our time frame that we want to take a look at this. So let's create one, right? Let's add a time frame where we're going to have a daily. Let's say I'm sorry, it's going to be an intraday. We're going to do, say, a 30-minute chart, and we're going to have it go for, say, 5 days, right? And I'm gonna click OK. You can't see it on the thing, but I'm gonna click OK here. And now we have a 30-day time frame chart. And this one it looks to be just the 10 and the 20. So let's go ahead and upgrade our study, and let's make it the study that we want it to be. This is the 10 and 20 only, but let's say I want to do the one with all of my lines on there that I usually like, and we can put each one on there with the study with all the lines that I normally like to have on my chart. And that's the cool part about this feature here with ThinkorSwim, right? Oh, no, don't touch that one. We're gonna touch this. We're gonna go here and here like we did on everything else. So now I'm looking at the SPX, the S&P 500, And right here in my top left corner, I have it on a daily, looking at the past 3 months. Right here, I have it on the weekly, looking at the past 5 years. We can go ahead and change that if that seems to be too many years for you. Let's drop it down to say just 2, right? To bring it up, looking a little bit better. So now we see it on the weekly. Now I have it on a 5-minute, and then I also have it on the over 5 days, and then I have it on a 30-minute over 5 days. So this allows you to take a look at the stock that you're following just in different time frames, right? And this is cool because depending on your trading plan, depending on how you have it set up, you can, or not how you have it set up, but depending on your trading plan, you can say to yourself, okay, I'm going to look at triggers and things on what they look like on the daily, right? You can say, okay, when something breaks, pulls down to the 20 EMA on the daily, that's a good sign for me to want to get in. And what that also can translate, you can see what that translates for you on the weekly, right? So where are we at on the weekly? As I'm looking at something, let's say on May 4th, I'm sorry, and you see that it's bouncing, or it looks to have potentially bounced off the 20 EMA here on the daily chart. Okay, well, we can zoom in a little bit here and see what does that look like on the weekly chart. Okay, we're riding the 5 weekly EMA. All right, and so what does that kind of look like on the 5-minute chart? Or better yet, before you even go to the 5-minute chart, you can say to yourself, okay, on the daily, I'm at a point where I'd like to get in because I like to buy off the 20 on an uptrending pattern. And then the weekly supports the fact that it's riding one of the EMAs, it's riding the 5 weekly EMA. So you're looking to have a pretty good chance of it continuing to ride, right? If that's a part of your trade. So now you can see things on your normal level here in the daily, and then on a macro level for the weekly. If you want to go monthly, you can do that as well, right? You can add as many different little windows of this flex period as you want. It could just it'll end up being too much at some point. But then when you're in the day, right, and you're ready to pull the trigger on this day, you're ready to pull the trigger on 5-4 or say 5-5. Now you have the lower time frames to be able to help you make a good decision on when you can enter that trade. So here's 5-4, and obviously here's where it pings that 20 EMA right here in this area here. And maybe the 5-minute chart is too short and too small of an interval to help you pick a spot of being able to enter in on. So maybe you say, all right, I'll do the 30-minute chart. Less candlesticks, I can get a better gauge of this. And you can see that, all right, it's pulled down, hit the 20. Here's where that is right here. And if you feel like that's a good spot to buy, then you can buy there. You can buy the next day. But the reason why I'm sharing the kind of the flex period piece of it and saying, all right, you look at it from your normal lens of a daily chart, if that's where you primarily start with, you pull out to get a macro view of the weekly, and then you also then dive deeper in on some smaller intraday timeframes to help you with your entry on that day, right? And you also still have to determine what your trading plan, what your entry is, what your entry signals are, right? If your entry signal on the daily chart is seeing that on the 20, you get support as well on the weekly chart. Well, what is your entry signal on your smaller time frames? Now, you may not use the same EMAs on all of them, right? You may not use the same 5, 10, 20, 50, 100, 5-minute EMA, right? Or the same thing here with the 30. You may not use those same moving averages on those smaller time frames. You may use something else, but again, it will help you with your trigger for that day, okay, for that daily entry that you want to go into there. And then also something that's cool as well is that, look, if we draw a line here, I'm going to go to our tools. I'm going to draw a line that kind of goes through that point there. And the reason why I draw that line is right there for this day that it hits the 20. Well, now look at it. We have it here on our 5-minute chart of where the 20 moving average was. We have it here on our 30-minute. We have it here on our also on our weekly. So when you do your drawing tool on ThinkorSwim on one of the charts, obviously because it's the same stock, it's going to translate to every single different time frame that you have on there. So FlexGrid is really cool with ThinkorSwim. I like it. I don't use FlexGrid as much as I thought I would though in the past. And the reason why is just because of space on the computer screen. Now I do have a bigger screen that I utilize right now, but when I got started, it was just a 15-inch and I needed some things blown up because my brain couldn't really adjust to seeing things so small like this, like this right here, to blow a new person's mind, right? Too much going on. But the this is still a pretty cool tool. So if you have a 32-inch monitor or something, 27-inch monitor, and you can blow that bad boy up, and you can fit even more. You can fit even more grids on here, right? You can customize your grids. You can set more grids by adding one to the right. So you have 9. You can have, I mean, you can have 4 on top, 4 on bottom, however many you want, right? Or you can just even add one to like, look how small they let you go in making these. Makes absolutely no sense why you would do that unless you have the biggest monitor ever. You gotta have to have like an 80-inch or something. So you can customize this flexible grid feature, clicking up here on this button, the customized grid. You either uncheck the box so you get rid of that thing that shows up in the middle, or you can check it and that thing will always show up in the middle unless you uncheck that customized grid box. Okay. So that's flexible grid. That's one piece of reason why I like ThinkorSwim, and kind of where I started off on being able to see things along the lines. But the other thing that I'm actually trying to remember how to have this setting go is to where when I move my cursor here, it moves on everything on every other chart as well. And I cannot remember right now how to set that up. I know I have it in my other workspace setup, but I can't remember how to set that one up right now. So it's kind of, maybe I'll remember it as we go through here. But the other way that you can kind of do this, right, is back on the charts tab. Let's pull up the SPX. Let's see if there's not, all right, so not a lot of madness on there, right? And there's this feature here in the top right corner. And it looks just like a rectangle. But what you would be able to do is you can, on the charts tab, create as many windows as you want. Look at this. We're gonna click that. Next thing you know it, I have all these different charts. And of course, if I line them up, you're like making your own flex grid, right? You're making your own flex grid. But we're not gonna have that many. We're gonna narrow it down to, let's say, 3 or 4. So we're gonna make 4 lined up just like this. And what we're gonna do with this setting, this is like, again, making our own flex grid, but I'll show you the cool part that I like to utilize and show you how people can just move through the section really quickly. So as you can see, I linked them with my color of yellow for SPX. So now whenever I change one, it's going to change the rest of them, right? Here, like, or whatever. Ooh, let's pop up MGM. I used to follow that a lot. So let's pop up MGM. So now we have the daily chart here on MGM. So on this setting, they're all the same, right? And what you want to do, though, just like how I showed you on the flex grid, is you want to be able to set this up to where you can have different time frames on there. And my ear was really itching inside of there, so I just had to do that. So you want to set this one up to be, say, your weekly, and you want to set this one up to be your 30-minute time frame, right? Or your monthly time frame, whatever you want to do. and you want to set this one up to be a different time frame, right? Maybe the 5 minute on the intraday. So the reason why I like this feature is because you can do this here. You would be able to click now on the box. Actually, let me do it here on this one. You would be able to click here on, is it this box? Yeah. So you'll be able to click here on this ladder symbol that's on the top right corner of each and every single one of these charts. And you would click maximize cell. And now when you maximize your cell, now you're on the third box that you created. And now up here to your top right, you're going to have this 4-box thing that shows 1, 2, 3, 4. And the red one is the one that you're on. So that means now what I can do is, instead of having maybe a lot of this madness here on a small screen, I can keep things big and I can just bounce through my different time frames. So here we have MGM. Let's keep the first one to be a 1-year daily. We're going to go over here to our next big chart screen here, and we're going to set this one up to be a 5-year weekly, right? And that's going to have its settings. And again, so we'll leave that 5-year weekly, right? And then on the third one, we're going to have a different time frame. Let's make this one that 30-minute time frame, right? So we're going to have it be an intraday. So let's say we can go for 10 days because now we have more space, and we're going to go for a 30-minute time frame on this one. So we'll click that one there. I'm actually going to save it as a favorite. And then on your fourth one, let's say this is when we narrow it down to your 5-day, 5-minute, right? So now, instead of having all of them there on FlexGrid, where they're smaller, you now have them all here and they're bigger, and you can just bounce from whatever it is you're ordering, what you like to review. Let me get rid of these drawings real quick. I'm gonna remove that fib. I'm gonna remove some of these horizontal lines that are definitely from the past, right? Remove. And oh no, why did I duplicate? That was not the right button to press, brother. Like seriously. All right, get rid of this noise. Remove drawing. All right. So this means when you come into your chart, when you come into your ThinkorSwim, you're on your chart tab. First thing that you like to look at is things on a daily. And you have your EMAs on there for your daily. You can have your EMAs, you can have your Bollinger Bands, you can have maybe just no EMAs, just straight price action. You can have your RSI. You can have whatever it is that's your setting that you like and ideally have for your daily chart. And then when you see what you want to see and what you like from this daily chart here, and you feel like, all right, let me take a look at a macro, I'm just going to bounce over and take a look now at the macro view for the bigger picture. Again, this is 5-year weekly. Maybe 5 years is too much for you for a weekly standpoint. And now I don't have any EMAs. But this is also why I said too, you may have different EMAs or different indicators depending on the time frame that you like to look at. And so for the weekly, you may not need all those lines. Maybe you only need the 10 and 20 weekly EMAs, right? Or maybe you only need the 10 and 20, the 10, 20, and the 50 EMA plus volume, right? That's what this study I have is for. Or maybe you only want to have the Bollinger Bands on here. And look, I'll do Bollinger Bands with the RSI. And so on the weekly, this is what's going to pop up here. So again, let's go back. I have the daily with the EMAs that I like to look at regularly on a daily for my daily chart. Then I pull back and I have the weekly now with the Bollinger Bands because I want to use Bollinger Bands for the weekly view, right? And now when you narrow it in, you have the 30-minute chart. Now me, what do I use for a 30-minute chart? I particularly use a study of an 834 cross. So this is an 8 EMA, which is your blue line, and a 34 EMA, which is your red line. I learned this from the folks over at Tradeway, and I'm looking for it to cross and shift. it'd be like a pivot point to shifting its direction and momentum. So on my 30-minute chart, I have these lines on here. So I don't have all these, 5, 10, 20 EMAs on here. I only have these lines on here when I come over to the 30-minute chart. And then on the 5-minute chart, I think I have like the 10, 20 or the 10, 20, 50. So we'll load that study there, right? So now I have the 10, 20, 50 on my 5-minute chart on my last tab, right? So this pretty much allows you to take the flex grid where you have all these things here, which you can do the same thing on the flex grid. Again, I think it's about this amount of size that you have available on your desktop, on your screen, whatever screen size you use. But with the charts, you can have that here, and you can easily just bounce from with one to another of which one you like. And I like to utilize this, especially when I'm talking to folks, because I could say, all right, let's take a look at it on the weekly. Now I don't have to change up my whole style or anything. I just bounce over here to the weekly, or I just bounce over here to the 30-minute. You may only live in these two spaces for a while until you're like, oh, when is it a good time to buy? Maybe today is a good time to buy because it looks like it could be bouncing off the 50 EMA with MGM. All right, what does it say on the weekly? Okay, on the weekly, we're pulling down from the Bollinger Bands. So maybe it's still a bearish situation. But again, you may not have Bollinger Bands on there. I don't believe I do. But I think I have that one on there. So now I'm looking at it from the 10, 20, and 50 weekly. I'm like, all right, it's pulling down to the 50, to the 10 weekly. And it also looks like it's been riding it for a while. Maybe the real bounce is down here at the 20 weekly. But you may like what you see here for an opportunity to entry. And then you can say to yourself, all right, what is it looking like? Does it look like on the 30-minute time frame, I have some momentum that's going to start, it's bouncing somewhere and taking me up, right? And then on the 5-minute chart, if you get down to that nitty gritty of your entry, I particularly don't, but it just depends again on what your style is. I wanted to just share this with you for education purposes. It's now you can drill it down to your 5-minute and say, all right, this is where I'm going to enter when I start to see, like this may have been an entry day for you when you start to see it break above all those EMAs and start to make its way up. So again, it's all in how you also have your trading plan set up, what you are comfortable with in your trade, in your trading style. And I'm just here to share with you some cool tools that ThinkorSwim has that makes that available to you. So hope you liked a little bit of that piece there. It's funny because I need to probably do a little bit of upgrading on the way that this chart looks. I'm gonna go to settings. One thing I like to do is make sure I add some space over here on my chart. So on your settings, you want to go in here. We want to look at the time access. You want to say like, give me 50 bars, 50 extra bars over there to the right. And I think another thing that I want to do is get rid of the time interval. So you see these red the time interval on that. No, that's corporate actions. Is that under appearance or is it under general? Okay, so number one thing we're gonna do here, time access. I wanna add some bars over here, right? And, show, display, show expiration Friday. So these red dotted lines you see here, that's expiration Friday on every month for the option chain. So if you don't wanna see those red lines on there, you're gonna uncheck that box there, right? And then you can show your year mark line, which is this gray line here. So you may want to keep the year in there, but I want to get rid of these lines there. And if you wanted to as well for appearance, I believe there's also a setting where you can get rid of the grid. So you see how there's the dotted lines here where there's the grid, you can get rid of that too. And if you go to appearance, I believe you click on that grid, it shows you how it just removes that. So right here, we just added 50 bar spaces here. We're getting rid of the red line and we're getting rid of the background grid on there. So we're gonna go apply and then okay. And look at that, less noise. So the only unfortunate thing in that case is you gotta do it to each one. And so on the weekly though, it's not gonna show you the expiration Friday because that would be a lot of red lines on here because obviously it's only 4 weeks in a month. So you have a gang load of red lines. But yet you kind of have to do that little overlap. You got to add those bars again. So we can add 50 to the right and we're going to uncheck the thing of show expiration Friday. And then on appearance, we're going to get rid of the grid again. We're going to apply, say, okay, boom. Now we have that. And then we're going to do the same thing over here where we want to add another 50 bars. So that's the unfortunate thing. You got to do it on each. You got to do it on each one. And this is the tedious part that nobody likes to do, but it's key. I mean, oh, I forgot to get rid of the background grid. I knew I was going to forget to do something. But I mean, these are part of the things where you can set it. And then once you finally set it, you can see if you're happy with it. If you're not happy with it, you could change it back. You can reset it back to its default settings. Do whatever you want to do. But you know, once you get the way that you have it and the way that you like it, then you will be happy. Trust me. Apply and okay. And now, bam, got that updated. So for this particular workspace, I've now updated the way that I want my charts to look. If I wanted to add different studies, I can add those studies. I can edit my studies. And then when you come back here to the setup tab, you can say save workspace as, right? And so if I want to make sure now all the changes I've made are going to be saved under this setting of the way that it's looked. But if I want to save this workspace a certain way, I can go ahead and save as. I'm going to change it to YouTube video or just YouTube. And YouTube, like I love YouTube. And now save. So now this workspace is called YouTube. And if I wanted to share this one, I can easily click on the share workspace, share the YouTube one, and send it to anyone who has ThinkorSwim that they use as a platform. And the way that I just have my screen set up, and even the studies and the settings and all that stuff can be uploaded on someone else's ThinkorSwim. And so that's another cool feature too with ThinkorSwim is you can share your workspace. That way, if somebody's like, how should I set mine up? I like the way you have yours. Can you send that to me? Sure. You send it to them. They can, they'll get a link that they can go and take that link and they can upload it into their ThinkorSwim. And now they'll have the same settings as you. So hope you enjoyed this video. It's probably longer, as I always say, than I expect it to be. But some good, valuable stuff. Again, like I'm just here to have fun, share this information for my children and for my children's children so that they can see this information while daddy's still here and or even when daddy's gone, and they can learn and know how to set up their charts or just do different things with their investments and the money that me and my wife will be leaving them. But until next time, I want you guys to continue, blah, 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 messing up, right? Continue to think, live, and be unstoppable. Peace out, y'all.